In observing the bewildering metamorphosis of Tucker Carlson, one is reminded of the intellectual and moral contortions that typify the descent into ideological partisanship. Carlson's initial support for Russia, articulated through a series of startling assertions, laid bare an alarming flirtation with autocratic sympathies. His rhetorical question, "Why shouldn't I root for Russia, which I am?" echoes not the reasoned discourse of a conservative intellectual, but the dangerous musings of a pundit unmoored from the anchors of democratic principle. In the grand theatre of political punditry, where Carlson now plays his part, there exists a grotesque inversion of priorities, where the trivial is magnified and the critical is trivialized. The plight of Ukraine, a nation struggling to maintain its sovereignty against a brutish incursion, is reduced to a mere footnote in a narrative dominated by paranoid delusions of global conspiracies and misplaced nationalistic fervor. This deliberate diminishment of a humanitarian crisis under the pretext of redirecting attention to more pressing issues is not just an exercise in callousness. It is symptomatic of a profound moral decay. It is the lamentable spectacle of a commentator, once tasked with the noble vocation of informing the public, descending into the role of a charlatan, peddling the dangerous elixir of misinformation and jingoistic posturing. This endorsement of an aggressor nation under the guise of anti-establishmentarianism represents a grotesque abdication of the moral responsibilities bestowed upon those in the public eye. To cheer for a regime engaged in the blatant violation of international norms and to subsequently pivot to a narrative that diminishes the gravity of the Ukrainian plight is not merely a failure of judgment. It is a deliberate obfuscation of the stark realities of power, sovereignty, and human rights. The suggestion that the West's attention to Ukraine is disproportionately magnanimous, or worse, a diversion from more pressing issues, is a red herring of the most insidious kind. It belies a fundamental misunderstanding or perhaps a willful ignorance of the stakes at play, the very order of the international system, the sanctity of national sovereignty, and the unyielding struggle against imperialist ambitions. Carlson's rhetorical acrobatics, from outright support of Russian aggression to a cynical critique of Western response, are not indicative of a sophisticated geopolitical analysis. They are instead emblematic of a troubling trend in certain media circles: the valorization of contrarianism over truth, of sensationalism over substance. In this lurid dance with demagoguery, Carlson has not merely strayed from the path of journalistic integrity. He has leapt headlong into an abyss of moral relativism. The danger here is not just the dissemination of a skewed worldview to a vast audience, but the legitimization of a narrative that emboldens autocrats and undermines the collective efforts to uphold international law and human rights. In sum, the Carlson saga, with its twists and turns in the murky waters of political expediency, is a stark reminder of the perils of abandoning the principles of honest discourse and moral clarity. It is a descent into a realm where the compass of truth is not just lost but willingly cast aside, a cautionary tale of what happens when the pursuit of ratings eclipses the pursuit of enlightenment.